Sweep the league teams, evil legends collide. If the Cowboys fall short, we'll still ride the tide. Like Jordan in the clutch of Brady's last play. We bring the fire, keeping fans in the fray. Coach Gio and Marie calling the shots. With Derek coming straight Hall of Fame thoughts. So hit that subscribe, don't sit on the bench. Get in the game, every highlight's intense. The live stream's on, tell your friends to delay. Like Kobe in the fourth, we're here to play. Sweep the League TV, where greatness resides. From the blogs at the drive, till my heart's on the rise. We're all in on sports, NBA, CFB, and more for fans. By fans, it's the show you'll adore.
Hey, Sweep the League Nation. Welcome to another spotlight show for Sweep the League. It's not Sweep Unplugged, so don't worry about that. It is another Sweep the League spotlight. Why is it a spotlight? Because we're shining the spotlight bright on an industry as a kid. For me, I grew up in. I loved doing the collecting part. Back in the day, you were chasing the 89 Hoops Robinson jersey in San Antonio, where he's holding the jersey. That card was like, oh, it's $50-$60. Well, if we take into inflation, that's probably, these days like an insane amount of money. But back in the day, you were chasing that card. You were chasing back 84 was the Jordan rookie. I mean, you got a whole lot of stuff, the 86, I'm sorry, it was whatever it is, but you got a whole lot of cards you were chasing back in the day. Now, card collecting went from I want that one card to I want that one card, but there's variations. There's 1 of 1s. There's the 10. There's the patch. There's the big old napkin that people tend to call it on the breaker side. We're going to dive into card collecting. It's collectibles, it's cards, it's autos, and it's, oh my, it's just kind of overwhelming. Well, we're going to put your mind at ease, guys. So shout out to the hobby family. Go to our YouTube page, subscribe to YouTube. Our YouTube page, Sweep the League TV. Hit that subscribe button for more content like this. We're going to try to bring you some more card shows left and right. And who are we going to have? You're going to have Jacob Eric's going to be a part of Sweep the League Nation. That was already been announced. So he's going to be doing some shows as well for the card industry. I'm going to be jumping in with him as well. And we also have an addition, hopefully one that'll come back from time to time, if not very often. And it is Mr. Matt Schilling. He's a writer for Sports Illustrated, the collectibles side, very knowledgeable, very, very knowledgeable guy. And I had the pleasure of talking to him on X. We got to know each other and said, you know what? Screw the talking back and forth. We need to put this on content. We need to put this on video. Matt, welcome to Sweep the League Nation, man. Appreciate you joining us.
Listen, Rudy, appreciate you having me. What's up to everybody at Sweep the League Nation? Certainly appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to today's podcast. I'm definitely be making multiple guest appearances here. Certainly filling you guys in on what's going on, what some of the latest trends and topics are throughout the course of the hobby. And, appreciate Rudy for the intro there.
No worries, man. Appreciate you having you on. And again, we are going to talk about, like I said, collectibles, whether it be cards, autos, everything. We're going to get into the card side of aspects here. And what you want to do is you want to go to si.com. You want to search for Matt on there. He writes a ton of articles, and it's great articles. I read them. I want to just dump right into it because this actually, your latest article posted roughly about a day ago, actually yesterday. Yep. It's the question that gets answered, because when you want to take that, you want to put your toe into the water, see how cold it is, or see how deep that end of the pool is, you kind of got to go through this right here. And I'm going to bring this up on our screen here because we're kind of cool guys over here and we like to share screens. So this is your article. I just bought a million card collection. Now what do I do? Now, if I bought a million card collection, I'm telling my wife, hey, you know what? I'm going to have to quit my job for a little bit. I'm going to have to sort through all this stuff. And hopefully there is that $1 million card, which chances are there probably isn't. But the article was fantastic. You got into a couple of cards that he was able to find. Where do you start when it comes to this? If you got that collection, Matt, where do you advise someone to start at?
So, as we talk about trends throughout the hobby, right? A lot of things we're finding is that, folks are going out there, they're going to yard sales, they're going to garage sales, they're going to flea markets, they're going to storage facilities, and then they're even going, driving up and down their neighborhoods, whether they're in, the suburbs of New York, Chicago, Philly, a couple Midwest towns, whether it's Vegas, Denver, right? And they're finding that the older collectors, maybe they're looking to retire, maybe they're looking to sell estates, houses, what have you, just have these absolutely masterful and monstrous collections that can be worth something to the right person. In this case, the collector went and he got himself a U-Haul and he bought a 1,000,000 card collection for, I think, pennies on pennies of the dollar. What I did in the article was I kind of spun it a little bit, right? Because nobody really knows the ins and outs of collecting unless you're in the hobby and have been in the hobby for decades, like myself and many of the colleagues that I've had and met over the years. Whether it's, Danny and the team at SI Collectibles or Mike Gio and the team over at Sports Card Nonsense, these are guys I've built relationships with, and these little how-to guides that sort of bring back the basics of collecting, right? The sorting, how do we do this? What do we go about? What are best practices? These are the things that are really going to start to separate the guys that are known versus the guys that are unknown, right? You don't ever want to walk into somebody at a garage sale who's selling cards out of a shoebox, having no idea what they have. There's no protection, no penny sleeves, no top loaders, nothing like that. But you rather would have somebody that's got a little bit of organization behind them. I'm not saying the million card collection purchase was the greatest or anything I directly advised to do 1 foot out of the gate. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to sort of provide some guidelines, right? What do you do and who do you look for? Well, since the first thing that caught my eye in this case was the fact that it consists of a lot of vintage cards, right? I think there was a handful of 60s, mostly 70s, and a lot of 80s, right? So what I did was, first things first is you want to identify what the potential names are within this collection, right? So the Mike Schmidt rookie, obviously, the flagship out of this, Robin Yount, some other names that are included there, George Brett. We all know that there's history and lore behind these three guys primarily, but what you want to do is you want to make sure you separate the well-known names from the not so well-known names. You want to make sure things are in penny sleeves and top loaders. I can't stress that enough to folks that are starting out in collecting or want to dive into collecting, right? Protection is key, specifically when you want to preserve grades. And we'll get into grades in grading theories and where to go and how to do that in multiple follow-up episodes. But with that said, there's a process that I take no matter if I'm going to buy a collection or I'm going to start to build out the collection that I already have, right? So you always want to gather supplies. You're going to need boxers, dividers, penny sleeves, top loaders. I touched on all that, right? You want to create a workspace, sort of how we've adopted in the post-COVID era in the corporate world, right? You want that separate room in your house, sort of maybe a half man cave, half office, workspace, big table, right? This is going to be your sort of domain and where you're going to put your own stamp of approval on this collection, whether it's this 1,000,000 card collection we're talking about, oil boxes you just picked up, sure it's clean, free of humidity. You want to protect those cards at all costs because, hey, whether you're buying a $39 box or you're buying a 1,000,000 card collection, there's the opportunity to find gems within that. And those gems could very well flip your $20, $30 investment into a couple of hundred. And even if you're lucky, that could be some, 4 and 5 figures at the back end of that card once all is said and done. So you always want to protect them. You want to keep them clean. Secondly, one of the things that I do really, really well is sort my cards, right? I want to do this by era. One of the things that we noted within this particular collection is, hey, start with the basics, separate them out by the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the eras in which these cards were from, because that's going to help you a lot down the line. Maybe you're collecting George Brett. Maybe you're collecting Cal Ripken. Maybe you're even collecting Ken Griffey. You want to group these cards by something. Maybe it's notable players. maybe it's by specific sets or years, or maybe it's even by teams. This again is going to help you sort of differentiate some value, because we know during the 60s and the 70s, right? The Yankees kept a premium, the Mets kept a premium, the Dodgers kept a premium to their value. And maybe they're not the primary or secondary players, but because a player was associated with that team, there's a little bit more of a value there. They could have won a championship. They could have done something pretty notable. Whatever the case may be there, that's one way. And then lastly, and probably most important when it comes to sorting, condition. Anything that's potentially pack fresh or mint or has very minimal depressions or errors or notches or nicks on it, set those aside, because they're probably going to carry a little bit higher value for you, right? Because the better the condition of the card, the more value you're going to extract out of it. You then want to utilize, once you have cards sorted, you want to decide what you want to keep or sell. Maybe you're a PC Sandy Koufax, so you want to keep him all to the side. Maybe your PC is George Brett or Cal Ripken, so you want to keep them all to the side. And then everything else you want to research the value of. And there's a bunch of tools that are out there. I prefer to use things like Card Ladder, a little bit more sophisticated tool, but it gives me an idea of what's trending, where, when, and how, similar to, the price of a stock. Or Beckett, the tried and true price guide of the collecting industry. We all remember those days of looking up that 86 Jordan, or looking up, that 81 Ripken, or the 91 or the 89 Griffey, whatever the case may be there. But seeing those two numbers in those right columns certainly put smiles on our faces back in the day. And then lastly, and most importantly, you want to enjoy your journey. Everybody's collecting journey is different. Everybody's got a different mind, and everybody's got to really explore within themselves what's most feasible. What can I spend without breaking the bank? Or in some cases, hey, do I want to take that headfirst dive into, 2025 or 2024 NT that comes out, I think today or tomorrow, that's going to be $1,700 a box, right? So setting parameters and setting yourself up for success is very easy in this business, and especially in this hobby. But like I said, I wanted to take the premise of this article and provide best practices and sort of a how-to guide to either new collectors or collectors that have been in the game for a while that might find themselves stuck, like I do sometimes. Hey, every collector gets there. Every collector finds himself there. And it's just a way to sort of refresh and restart.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's where I came in. I collected, like I said, back in the 80s. I was collecting. I wasn't taking as great a care of cards as it's supposed to be. But back in the day, what did we have? We had the sleeves. You buy the binder, you go buy the sleeves, and you put them in there. You would sometimes double them back to back because you had so many cards. So that's my era of collecting, where these days, cards are so, they can be so valuable. You've got to truck and, like you said, penny sleeves and do a top loader. If you send them to get graded, there's a certain way you want to do to set them to get graded, certain way to pack them. So yeah, I love the article because it gets you into the collecting side, gives you an idea of what to expect. But for a guy like me who got out of the hobby, right around or pre-COVID, I'm coming back into it and I'm kind of still mind boggled. Like, well, okay, I see what's hot. I see what's trending. Back in the day, a Barry Sanders card was just as valuable as a Dan Marino card. But where these days, we're talking today, those running back positions, say a Bijan Robinson, isn't going to hold as much water as a CJ Stroud. Quarterback is the main position right now you want to collect when it comes to rookies in the NFL, or even veterans like a Patrick Mahomes rookie. I mean, there's the sky's limits on a lot of those, but it's weird how position players these days in football probably hold more water. Now, you look at the baseball side of things. I mean, Paul Skeens is the one guy you want to get right now. But pitchers, on the other hand, again, a Nolan Ryan card back in the day will hold its value up against position players. And these days, it's like those position players are holding a lot more value than pitchers. And I think that's the trend that I saw, lately, is that there's that one position out in the basketball world. It's kind of up and down. You can go on a Jeremy Lin type of run and your cards go skyrocket and then come right back down. But in basketball right now, it's, it's Wemby. It's, you can go as far as Jokic rookies and, these guys left and right, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. But is that kind of another trend that we tend to see these days compared to back in the day?
So it is. It's interesting you bring up, and let me touch on baseball first before I get into basketball. Right,
Sure.
baseball. You have a guy like Paul Skeens, and what we've seen probably over the last 12 or 15 years is an absolute abundance of pitchers. Right, when you look at baseball stats, the first thing you want to look for, or I look for as sort of a reference check, is Bowman Draft. Right, Bowman Draft is the sort of very first. Excuse me, 1 second. um, Bowman Draft is the epitome of where guys' rookies are going to be found, right? That first Bowman logo on those cards are pretty much the industry standard for rookies. Paul Skeens is a generational talent. Given the fact that there's, I think it's 4-1 or 5-1 pitchers to position players that are in any draft. You want to take that generational player, you want to put him aside. Same rules apply to Wemby. Same rules apply to a handful of guys, right? That generational talent is a little less prevalent in football. You do, coming out of every draft, probably have 5 to 6 to 7 guys out of that 270 or so player pool that are going to be your 2 or 3 guys right off the bat, 2 or 3 guys in 4 or 5 years that are going to start to gain value and trend upward. Your CJ Stroud, he's going to retain value, I think, for a long time. Problem with football is it's going to be all about his ability to stay healthy. Mahomes has managed to stay healthy throughout the course of his career. Josh Allen has, for the most part, become that same guy. Justin Herbert cards, on the other hand, who was supposed to be this unbelievable quarterback talent, has probably fared well, but his values have decreased significantly. You have Zion Williamson. I own the only BGS 10 select rookie purple die cut out of 99 of Zion Williamson. Its value has plummeted 85% since I got that card. It's still probably going to fetch probably just over $1,000, but at one point that was a $10,000 to $15,000 card. These generational talents have to not only just come fresh out of the gate, but they have to prove themselves too, because, look at LeBron, right? LeBron was this unbelievable talent in high school, McDonald's All-American, got drafted, first overall, was this absolute mega star in the NBA, right? We may not see another LeBron for the next 30 years. We don't know. You don't know when you're going to see Paul Skeens again, but there may not ever be another Paul Skeens. And that's sort of the captivating factor with some of these players. Now, there could very well be a pitcher we know nothing about, was drafted in the 6th round by, I don't know, any one of the, Major League Baseball teams, but could come out and throw 2 no-hitters next season. Nobody ever heard of the guy, and his cards skyrocket 10,000%. You see, so it could be a wide range of factors that come into play here. My thing that I sort of am always cautious about, because you look at Wander Franco, absolutely sad, horrifying story. But he was a generational talent. His cards were at their peak, some of the most premiums anybody would ever pay for a rookie card. Absolutely diminished because of things that were going on nobody had any idea about, right? Got caught up in a whole bunch of nonsense. And they've literally lost 99% of their value. So generational talents can come and go. They're highly, highly volatile investments. But I think as we sort of sit here and we look across the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball, right? There's generational talents that are here to stay. I think as long as Skeens stays healthy, as long as Wemby stays healthy, as long as Stroud stays healthy, and even on the hockey side of things, Connor Bedard, if he stays healthy, right? Those generational talents across the 4 major U.S. sports, they're going to retain value. And of course, we cannot forget about Caitlin Clark, who's the hottest thing in the WNBA in the last 20 years. She's going to retain value because of the barriers she's breaking, the numbers she's putting up, and the talent that she has when she comes on the court. So big shout out to the WNBA there too, because she's an absolute monster in the hobby right now.
Massive shout out. I know on Sweep the League TV, myself, Derek Gervin, a lot of us, we shout out the WNBA a ton. And
Mhm.
as everyone was saying, well, the WNBA is coming down in value, yada, yada. No, no. You know what? With this last draft class, it's just launching more draft classes for the WNBA. You're talking about Paige Bucher's coming out, Juju Watkins coming out. I mean, you've got a lot of talent coming up through the collegiate
Mhm.
ranks of WNBA. So these values of cards are going to go. And I personally bought a couple of select boxes, and luckily, unfortunately, put a couple of Angel Reese's, Caitlin Clark, one
There you
player
go.
in the WNBA. I'm glad you mentioned it. Lucky enough, I was able to buy her auto at the last show for, I believe, around $15. Was Rakia Jackson. I
There
mean,
you go.
I love that. I got a prism of her on select. So I mean, yeah, you're right. WNBA values. I've been buying a lot of older Cynthia Cooper rookies, Della Don autos, stuff like that. So I buy those as I see them. But you're right, man.
Mhm.
The generational talents are the ones that are going to be here to stay. You can kind of get that. What I love about Sweep the League TV, and that Matt's going to find out very well too, is the fact that we've got a hockey show on the network. We've got,
Mhm.
of course, Super League covers everything. We've got a whole bunch. So when Matt tells you to collect somebody, you collect them, and we back him up because we're telling you how good these players are. So appreciate Matt Schilling from Sports Illustrated, SI.com. You can go search all his articles there, get some writings from him, get some ideas from him where to go. Matt, I want to transition to something real quick here. So
Sure.
the whole collecting side of things. Now,
Mhm.
I mentioned to you before the show that, I said, I went to this past show. I went and bought something that I normally never buy, but investing is a part of collecting, if that makes total sense. And
Absolutely.
you always think, well, is this card going to go up? I am a person that suffered through the biggest loss in sports card history, I will say, and it's my own personal opinion, but I was the only person that I know of to pull a Prism Luka Doncic gold auto to 10 rookie card. Sold it, got it graded, sold it. You've seen pictures of it. We're going to talk about that on another show because I need about an hour to talk to you about that. It's got a lot of therapy. So I sold it. I ended
Okay.
up selling it. Yeah, I ended up selling it for 7,500, but at the time I had to pay for my daughter's school. So that
Sure.
card is probably six figures minimum. I could have paid my entire house off, I'm sure, with it right now. But it's about investing. And I told
Yep.
my daughter when I bought these cards, I brought them home and I said, look, I bought these because in my time they were great. One of them was in my time, and then there's another reason why I bought them, and I'm bringing them up here. So I ended up buying both the '89 Griffey, the most
Mhm.
memorable, iconic baseball card at the time, and probably one of the most iconic cards, period, in the industry, plus the Fleer Lucky 13 Kobe Bryant
Yep.
redemption rookie. So she goes, well, what are they worth? The first question that my daughter says, what are they worth? I'm like, well, they're not worth a whole bunch, like thousands of dollars now, but they're going to go up in time. These are major investments because these are cards that everybody looks for. So the aspects of collecting to investing, can you kind of touch in on that?
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right. Right. So when we were growing up, collecting was collecting, right? We collected for the hobby. We collected our favorite teams, our favorite players. We did it for the hobby, right? We did it for the culture, as the kids like to say today, right?
Yeah.
Now, investing and collecting run parallel to one another. There are cards upstairs in my office um, that carry some significant value to them, right? Those are investments. Those are ones that are going to be away. They're graded by PSA and BGS. They're in a safe. Then there are other ones that I have piles of in top loaders that my son and I, my daughter and I have collected and just kind of sort of set aside. And if they carry some value eventually, cool. If they don't, then then it was for the culture. Because at the end of the day, everybody says there's two schools of thought, but there's really not because
Mm.
you're going to find yourself in a situation sometimes, not all of us, some of us, right, where, like you said earlier, you're in a situation where you had to pay for your daughter's school, so you got rid of the Luca. We're now going to go on and have a 1 hour podcast therapy session about that, and that's perfectly cool. I'll tell you what my fee is for that later.
Yeah, definitely.
But no, in all honesty, right, it's they're running parallel to one another. Like, I've post Kobe's passing, I've probably formed a newfound um, affinity towards his cards. I
Mhm.
started collecting Kobe after the fact. The Griffey I probably have 10 or 12 of. Um, For me early on, it was Nolan Ryan. It was understanding that PC. I was lucky enough to come across one insert variation purple autograph of Josh Allen's rookie year from Contenders. I have that upstairs, ungraded. So PSA, be prepared for that to come soon. I have a stack of Lucas that still need to be graded. And that's the other aspect too. Everybody's like, well, you collect, you must have a ton of time on your hands. Trust me, running busy lives with jobs and family and being a dad and kids and a wife and a house and a dog and all that fun stuff. These things take time. There's a reason we all love this hobby for what it is. At the end of the day, it's a hobby because it takes love, it takes blood, it takes, sweat and tears. But the investment aspect, there's definitely some formidable appreciation you have to give to the guys that are buying things, holding them, and then seeing, significant returns on those cards, right? We could sit here for hours and go, oh, I bought this in 1989 and in 2024, it's worth X and this is my ROI, right? That's a whole nother table of conversations. But I think that at the end of the day, now collecting and investing are running parallel to one another because, hey, your life can change in an instant. If you go into Target, spend $39 and find yourself getting a one-of-one nebula. That 39 just turned into a minimum of 500, or, going and doing the Donruss Optic downtown chase, right? Those are easily 500-600, and you catch a CJ Stroud, you're looking at a couple grand, I know year over year, I think it was between 23 and 24, the population of those cards. So just sort of a word to the wise there, has increased. I think the production runs have increased. You're going to have to look those up to get specifics. But they still carry a lot of weight and they still carry a lot of value. So, there's that aspect of things. And the true hobbyists out there, the guys that, man, and I got to give them some credit before we go, but the guys that actually still trade cards without cash exchanges are few and far between, but they're, a major staple in the hobby as well.
Yeah, I tried doing a couple of trades this past weekend. It didn't really work because they said, wow, I need some cash on top of that. I'm like, it's a simple, if you want another card, I'll give you another card, but I don't want to do any cash value on it. It's tough, man. It is super tough. Man, before we go, I have a whole lot more I want to talk about, but before we go, I want to give a quick shout out because I've been asked many times, well, why don't you buy the Kobe Topps Chrome, Kobe Topps card, even the Lucky 13? There's a reason why I only buy graded, PSA graded or BGS graded Kobe rookie cards, because for those that don't know, and it's funny, I had a guy at the show and he was like, I didn't know that. I said, yeah, you got to understand. He had a raw Topps Kobe Bryant card and he was asking $125 for it. And I said, graded, I would give you not that much, but probably close to, but I don't know what a graded meant. But it's got to be graded. He says, well, why? I said, well, Kobe Bryant's rookies are one of the most counterfeited rookies in the history of sports card collecting. I said, if I was you, I would spend the $15-20, get it graded by PSA just to give you safe of mind, man. So shout out and PSA to everybody out there. Kobe Bryant rookies, if you've got them, grade them, because these 100%. Are very counterfeitable, man. And Matt, I think you've heard that before.
I have. And that's one thing too, that you want to, leave the listeners with before I go here. Grading is such an important part of the hobby, not just to put a number on the card itself, but to also prevent the counterfeiting aspect, because what's neat about PSA, BGS, SGC even, right? These companies know how to spot a counterfeit. And their teams of grading experts know how to do that. They're going to come back to you. Now you're going to have to go to them and individually and see what their policies are regarding this, because most of us don't know. If we submit a counterfeiter card, we had no idea, right? Exactly. But they're going to tell you whether or not it's authentic, which is a really, really nice caveat to the grading marketplace.
Yeah, it really is. And that's something that I really recommend for a lot, because even David Robinson's rookie card, he's holding up the jersey and the hoop set, that was a very counterfeited card as well. So PSA is not necessarily just, getting a number, like you said. It's about the peace of mind that you get for cards, especially higher upper end ones. Just grade them. If they come back a 5 or a 6, if they're in your PC, who cares? That's a PC collector right there, man. So Matt, you know, it's been fun, man. I'm looking forward to doing this a lot more with you. We baited, we didn't even scratch the surface. We haven't even hit the surface on what we want to do for
Maybe
card
not.
collecting. So be sure to everybody check out Matt Schilling. Go to si.com, search him up, his articles there. Articles are fantastic. I retweet them on Twitter. I got banned from Facebook, so I haven't really got back on Facebook yet. So damn copyright stuff. But nonetheless, Matt, appreciate you joining us, and we look forward to doing this again, man.
Absolutely, Rudy. Thanks for having me today. It's been great. Hope everybody enjoyed the show, and I'll be back soon.
Awesome, Matt. That is Matt Schilling, si.com, writer for SI when it comes to collectibles. This has been Sweep the League Spotlight Edition. We're going to do more card collecting shows here pretty soon. So until then, we'll see you later, knuckleheads. Y'all have a great, great, great day.